Hi, Connor here, Neversink Farm, and today I wanted to talk about maximizing your space with plantings. On a farm, it's incredibly important that you don't want to have wasted space. It doesn't mean that we're trying to get things as close as possible or trying to interplant, although interplanting is great and it helps maximize some space. What I'm talking about more is just not wasting space on a bed. And how does that I want to achieve that? Well, all my beds here at Neversink are 30 inches from edge to edge. And one way to maximize your space is to always have the beds equidistant, not have them arbitrary. So I always mark them out with a stake so I know where the bed edge is, and I keep all paths exactly the same width. Here in the family garden, they're a lot wider, but on the farm, they're going to be 14 inches every time. And if people are stepping on the beds, then either the beds are not demarcated correctly, or the paths are too narrow. You need to widen them up, because you want to maximum, if you're putting all this work into your bed, adding compost and fertilizer and just taking care of them over the years, you want to be able to use them all. So very important to have a consistent width. So if you're a 30-inch bed farm, then you should be able to use all that 30 inches or whatever. If you're 40 inches, then you should be able to use all that 40 inches. Now, once you have your bed width, now all you need to know is how many rows you're going to plant on that bed. Is it 1 row, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Regardless of the number, your bed width decides your planting width. Because if you're putting 2 rows on a 30-inch bed, that means they're 15 inches apart, 30 divided by 2. It's that simple. Well, I know that some will say, well, you plant lettuce 6 inches apart or 7 inches apart or 8 inches apart. That's really not the starting point. The starting point is how big is your bed, because you want to maximize the plantings on that bed. So if you're going to plant lettuce, how many rows do you want to plant? Well, if you're doing 3 rows on a bed, just like I have here, 30 divided by 3, 10 inches. Now I'm giving each lettuce 10 inches, right? So it has 10 inches of space around it, every single one, right here, okay? All the way to the edge, equal. There'd be no reason to plant these 7 inches apart because 30 is not divisible by 7. Now each one of these lettuce will have equal plantings, so they will get equal chance for getting nutrients, for getting water, and it also makes it very, very easy to cultivate, however you want to cultivate, right? So, you don't want to be cultivating like this, right? You want to just be moving yourself down the row. And that makes it so much easier because now you've set up a standard. You wanted to do 4 rows in a bed, 30 inches divided by 4, 7.5 inches. So all of your 4 rows would be 7.5 inches. Well, I know some do a staggered thing. It's not efficient on a farm because it makes it very difficult to cultivate, it makes it difficult to plant, and it doesn't accurately give everything the right amount of spacing. Because as I said, the bed width is what's going to determine that spacing. And that's going to maximize your space, giving them the right spacing. Here's another example. And example, I have 30-inch beds, so I can step over them. But this bed is 30 inches wide, and I have carrots planted in them. And I ran over it with the gritter initially to put 3 rows on it. And since it's a 30-inch bed, divided by 3, it's 10 inches always. So I have my carrots spaced 10 inches apart. So they each get 10 inches, right? 5 inches on either side. Now, why would I do them at 10 inches instead of like 8 inches? Well, 3 times 8 is 24, so there's 6 inches I'd be losing of the bed. And that certainly isn't maximizing the bed space. There's nothing wrong with that 6 inches, but why am I not using it? Or why would I plant these close to the edge and then have a wider space here and here, right? And then a narrow space here, right? They're not gonna get equal sun and equal water and equal nutrients by doing that. This way I get equal. And I don't lose that extra 6 inches if I were to do an arbitrary number like 8. 10 is that perfect spacing for me on a 30-inch bed. And then the carrots, which these are carrots seeded, they're germinating now. They're gonna all get equal sunshine, equal water, and equal nutrients. And over here, we have some broccoli. And while you could do broccoli 2 on a bed, here in the family garden, I'm doing 1 row. So I like to grow some big heads. But that 1 row is straight down the middle of the bed. You certainly wouldn't plant your row over here, right? Because that wouldn't make any sense. Because you want it to get equal nutrients from the whole bed, so that there's 15 inches from here to here and 15 inches from here to here. It just makes sense when you're doing a single row, which is why 3 rows would be 10 inches. 2 rows, they'd be 15 inches, right? So 15, 15, right? And then 7.5, 7.5. And that would be 2 rows. And some places where we have 2 rows, kale, chard, all of those things go what I call a 2x2, which is 15 inches. And this really maximizes your plants. And one final tip on that is straight rows, straight paths, lined up. You know, in a garden, what does it matter, right? You can have them weaving, you can have a whole thing in a circle. But on a farm, once your paths and beds are arbitrary and they're not straight, you lose tons and tons of space. And that's just losing labor, much harder to weed. You're losing tons of nutrients because you're not able to maximize the space. Anyway, thanks for watching, and subscribe if you like it or like the video, and until next time.